Attention, gentlemen. If you're a man in your 60s, 70s, or 80s and your nights are routinely interrupted by the frustrating, urgent need to urinate, that constant, disruptive cycle of waking up 2, 3, or even 4 times, listen closely. If you're feeling a persistent pressure in your lower belly, a heaviness in your pelvis, or that nagging sense that something isn't quite right in your pelvic floor and lower urinary tract, you are definitely not alone. This is an experience shared by millions of men facing benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, or simply an enlarged prostate that I've spent years in clinical settings listening to men talk honestly about these most private and frustrating issues. And I can tell you a critical truth that often gets overlooked. Most chronic prostate problems don't begin merely with age. They begin with deeply ingrained, seemingly harmless nighttime habits that I end this comprehensive, deep dive video. We're going to expose 5 specific nocturnal mistakes, what I call the prostate nighttime traps, that a vast majority of seniors make without realizing the cumulative, silent damage they're inflicting on their prostate health. These aren't extreme warnings or fringe theories. They are insights rooted in years of clinical observation and are backed by urological and nutritional science related to nocturia, bladder irritation, and prostatic inflammation. These 5 simple habits explain precisely why some men continue to struggle with chronic BPH symptoms, stubborn urinary urgency, and poor sleep, even when they think they are meticulously following every piece of general health advice. The most frustrating part? These habits feel completely innocent. A late-night cup of tea, a heavy, salty dinner, or simply ignoring that final bedtime urge to pee. But to your prostate, these choices are not innocent. They are cumulative stressors. Over weeks and months, they stretch, irritate, inflame, and wear down a gland that is already working overtime in your later years to maintain proper urinary function. Stay with me until the very end of this video because we are not just going to name these 5 destructive habits. We're going to give you specific, gentle, and actionable strategies to undo the damage and introduce new prostate-friendly bedtime routines. You might find that the key to finally sleeping through the night, feeling lighter and less congested in your pelvis, and regaining bladder control starts with eliminating just one of these habits tonight. Let's begin the countdown and start your journey toward prostate wellness and restorative sleep. Mistake number 1. The late-night hydration overload droplet. New keywords: nocturia, fluid management, diuretic effect, bladder capacity, prostate decompression. One of the most common and well-intentioned habits that silently puts relentless stress on the prostate is late evening fluid consumption. It's completely understandable. Men over $60 are constantly advised to stay well hydrated to support kidney function, maintain healthy digestion, and boost general vitality. But when the majority of that fluid intake is consumed after $6:00 p.m., especially in the hour or two immediately preceding sleep, it becomes a major problem that your prostate and bladder are forced to manage. The age-related challenge: as men age, the prostate gland naturally undergoes a degree of enlargement, leading to BPH. This enlargement physically narrows the urethra, the tube carrying urine out, which in turn slows down urine flow and makes it significantly harder for the bladder to fully empty. Incomplete bladder voiding. Now, consider the effects of pouring extra liters of liquid into this already compromised system late at night. Instead of achieving the deep, uninterrupted, restorative sleep you need, your body's sole focus becomes waking you up repeatedly to deal with the inevitable surge of excess liquid. The bladder fills rapidly, sending urgent signals to the brain, and the prostate, already compressed and under pressure, struggles to cooperate. You don't feel this immediate mechanical stress. Your internal dialogue might be, "I'm just getting older, of course I'll wake up a few times a night." It's nocturia. But what is truly happening is the acceleration of a negative biological cycle. Excess fluids lead to increased bladder pressure, and that chronic pressure leads directly to low-grade prostatic inflammation and worsening urinary symptoms. Over time, this compounded nightly stress drama tacally exacerbates symptoms: more urinary urgency, more frustrating trips to the bathroom, and a lingering, uncomfortable heaviness, the water timing solution. Prostate decompression. I recall speaking with Walter, an $82-year-old gentleman who swore by drinking 2 tall glasses of ice water right before bed. He genuinely believed it helped him flush toxins overnight, but he also sadly admitted he hadn't experienced a full, uninterrupted night of sleep in over a decade. After our conversation, we implemented a simple fluid management strategy. Walter shifted the majority of his water intake to the earlier hours of the day, making sure he was consistently hydrated before 6:00 p.m., and then only sipped very lightly after dinner. Within a single week, his nightly awakenings dropped from 4 or 5 times down to just once per night. His insight was profound. I thought I had an inevitable prostate problem. It turned out I had a correctable timing problem. Of course, you cannot and should not cut water completely. Optimal hydration is critical for kidney health and cellular repair. But the strategic goal is prostate decompression while you sleep. By front-loading your hydration intake, getting $80% of your daily fluid before the evening hours, you give your bladder and prostate the crucial 8 hours of rest they desperately need. If you feel genuinely thirsty late at night, take a small sip to wet your mouth, but resist the powerful habit of chugging a full glass. Listen to your body's demand for rest and let your prostate recover. The difference in your morning comfort will surprise you. Mistake number 2. The high-sodium, processed dinner trap salt. New keywords: water retention, kidney load, circulatory health, pelvic congestion, inflammatory diet. If you're like many older adults, dinner might be the single heaviest, most comforting, or most convenient meal of your day. A quick frozen meal, a can of hearty soup, some deli meats, or salty snack mixes can seem utterly harmless. However, when it comes to your prostate, these high-salt, highly processed meals quietly set the stage for an extremely uncomfortable and highly interrupted night. This is a critical aspect of inflammatory diet that affects BPH. The saltwater retention cycle. The primary issue isn't merely the salt itself. It's the chain reaction that excessive sodium triggers within your body. Salty foods cause systemic water retention during the day, forcing your body to hold onto more fluid than it should. This excess fluid must eventually be processed and flushed out, and the body often attempts to do this precisely when you're trying to sleep. This dramatically increases nighttime urination, salt-induced nocturia, puts unnecessary added pressure on your bladder walls, and indirectly stresses and swells the prostate gland that is struggling to manage the outflow. Furthermore, this is about the overall kidney load and your circulatory health. When you consume a dinner high in sodium and processed ingredients, your kidneys and entire circulatory system must remain active and working much longer into the night. This prevents your body from fully relaxing into the deep, parasympathetic, restorative sleep phase. For men with an enlarged or sensitive prostate, this metabolic activity means your pelvic area stays tense, congested, and mildly irritated throughout the night. The result is predictable. You wake up feeling heavy, fatigued, and more inflamed than the night before. The low-sodium, anti-inflammatory solution. I remember working with a $76-year-old man named Glenn who complained of constant, confusing nighttime urination. He insisted, "I don't drink water late, and I always empty my bladder before bed." But when we meticulously reviewed his dinner choices, we discovered he was consuming canned chili, high-sodium TV dinners, and salty snack mixes most evenings, rationalizing them as quick and easy. Once Glenn committed to switching to lighter, low-sodium meals rich in fresh vegetables, lean, unprocessed protein, and complex carbohydrates, his body's internal thermostat calmed down almost immediately. He noticed the difference in just 3 nights, stating, "I didn't realize how much tension and swelling was building up in my lower body until it finally went away." Your prostate gland does not just react to liquids. It reacts intensely to the overall state of your body, and salty, processed foods create a state of high alert. They can elevate blood pressure, comprom, ISE microcirculation, and force the body to retain and then struggle to drain fluids smoothly. This leads directly to pelvic congestion, more irritation in the prostate, and those unwanted trips to the bathroom. The strategy here is to adopt a prostate-friendly dinner protocol. Think simple steamed or roasted vegetables, light grilled fish or chicken, or a bowl of warm, whole-grain oatmeal or brown rice. Focus on foods that are satisfying but do not metabolically stress your body or contribute to water retention while you sleep. Mistake number 3, prolonged bladder distension. Holding it in, stop sign, new keywords. Bladder wall elasticity, residual urine, urinary tract infection, UTI, risk, bladder outlet obstruction, mechanical strain. Many older men wake up in the middle of the night feeling the need to urinate, but they consciously choose not to go. Perhaps they are too comfortable, too tired, or simply believe it's easier to turn over and attempt to fall back asleep. This seemingly small decision is actually a powerful, silent cause of mechanical strain on both the bladder and the prostate. The cascade of pressure and strain here is the urological truth. Holding in urine at night causes detrimental strain that accumulates over time. When you resist the powerful urge to urinate, your bladder continues to fill and stretch, bladder distension. This may feel harmless initially, but as the bladder expands far beyond its comfortable capacity, the bladder walls become thinner, less elastic, and increasingly irritable. This reduces your overall functional bladder capacity over time. The most critical point is the effect on your prostate. The longer the urine is held inside, the more hydrostatic pressure builds up in the lower urinary tract. That pressure exerts a forceful pushback on the prostate gland, especially if it's already enlarged and causing a degree of bladder outlet obstruction (BOO). Over weeks and months, this chronic back pressure contributes directly to prostatic inflammation, slows down the already sluggish urine flow, and drastically increases the risk of a urinary tract infection (UTI). This is not just a comfort or convenience issue. It's a profound mechanical and infectious risk. A bladder that is chronically overfull makes it much harder to fully empty later. That leftover, stagnant urine, residual urine, creates a perfect, warm environment for bacteria to multiply, leading to irritation, more frequent and painful urges, and sometimes acute infections that require medical intervention. For an older man with an already sensitive and large prostate, this is the last complication you need. The gentle release protocol. Trust your signals. I spoke with Leonard, age $81, who had a steadfast habit of waiting until morning, no matter what. He would confess how his lower belly often felt painfully tight and distended by morning, and how, even after finally urinating, he still felt a sensation of incomplete voiding. I encouraged him to adopt a gentle release protocol. Simply get up and go when the urge first hit, even if it was just a mild sensation once or twice a night. Within a few days, Leonard reported significantly less morning pressure, fewer lingering sensations of fullness, and dramatically improved flow. His realization was key. My body was sending me clear health signals. I was just stubbornly ignoring them. Your body's signals are built in for a reason. When it tells you to release, it's a message for urinary tract maintenance, not just comfort. The longer you hold, the more tension and swelling you induce. While avoiding late fluids, mistake number 1, will help minimize these urges. When the urge does arrive, do not ignore it. Respond gently. Let your system reset, and your bladder and prostate will reward you with less strain and better health. Mistake number 4, postural prostate compression, stomach sleeping. Person in bed, new keywords. Pelvic tension, visceral pressure, side sleeping, spinal alignment, microcirculation. Of all the sleep positions, sleeping on your stomach might seem the least connected to prostate health. Yet if you are a man over $60 and habitually lie face down at night, your sleeping posture could be applying subtle, silent, yet consistent postural prostate compression precisely where your body least needs it, your pelvic region. The mechanism of continuous pressure here is what happens in the lower body when you sleep on your stomach. Your entire upper and mid-body weight shifts forward and downward. This places a subtle, continuous downward pressure on your lower abdomen, the bladder, and the immediate area surrounding the prostate gland. While this might not feel immediately obvious, especially if it's a lifelong habit, over the course of 6 to 8 hours, this position can severely interfere with optimal blood flow, increase pelvic tension, and mechanically impede the proper drainage and relaxation of the lower urinary tract. The prostate is a small gland, but it is exquisitely sensitive to inflammation and congestion. Even small changes in pressure, especially when repeated nightly, contribute to discomfort, swelling, and a slower, more difficult urine flow. For someone already coping with an enlarged prostate, stomach sleeping quietly and consistently makes BPH symptoms worse without you ever realizing the cause. The postural solution: side sleeping and decompression. I once spoke with Harold, a $74-year-old man, who came in complaining of a constant, baffling tightness in his lower abdomen that was worse every morning. He initially thought it was a digestive issue, but when we discussed his sleep, one detail was glaring. He always fell asleep flat on his stomach, often with one leg curled up, which twists the spine and pelvis. After switching to a side sleeping protocol, specifically sleeping on his left side with a supportive pillow placed between his knees, Harold reported back weeks later with a remarkable change. I didn't realize how much chronic tension I was holding in my pelvis until I released it. The morning tightness is gone. You should never force yourself into an uncomfortable position, but experimenting with a new sleeping posture can make a profound difference. Side sleeping, particularly on your left side, helps to reduce visceral pressure on internal organs and immediately improves microcirculation to the pelvic area. Some men also find significant relief by slightly elevating their legs or using a wedge pillow under their knees to reduce the downward, compressive pressure on the bladder and prostate. This is a quiet, zero-effort change, but an incredibly important one. You spend up to 1/3 of your life in this position, so even a small shift toward prostate decompression posture can create enormous long-term results in comfort and flow. Mistake number 5: skipping the courtesy P, the final void, toilet, new keywords, bladder reset, complete voiding, nocturnal fluid shift, biofeedback, urinary maintenance. It sounds like a minor detail, the final step in your bedtime routine. Maybe you're already cozied up in bed, perfectly comfortable, and you rationalize, "I'll just go in the morning. It wasn't a strong urge anyway." But for older men, particularly those dealing with an aging or enlarged prostate, ignoring that final, even mild urge to urinate right before sleep can cause much more nocturnal trouble than you realize. The nighttime pressure cooker here is the essential reason why this final void is non-negotiable. When you deliberately go to bed with a partially full bladder, the urine sits stagnant for hours. This residual volume puts a gentle but steady pressure on your bladder walls and, consequently, your prostate. This pressure is compounded by the nocturnal fluid shift, a natural process where your body reabsorbs fluid from your extremities when you lie down, increasing urine production. Over time, that residual pressure becomes more than just physical. It becomes inflammogenic. It signals to your lower urinary tract that the system is not fully cleared, and your prostate begins to respond in unhelpful ways, often involving mild swelling and increased urgency sensitivity. Leaving urine sitting overnight creates an ideal scenario for irritation and potential low-level bacterial growth, especially if the prostate already prevents your bladder from completely emptying during the day. The bladder reset protocol: I spoke with Peter, a $69-year-old man, who confessed he avoided the final bathroom trip purely out of inertia. "I never felt like I had to go that badly, so I just skipped it," he said. But over a few years, he began waking up more frequently at night and noticed a persistent difficulty in achieving a full void in the morning. Once Peter committed to a bladder reset protocol, making a point to visit the bathroom every night immediately before getting into bed, whether the urge was strong or not. He saw immediate, real changes. Fewer nocturnal interruptions, easier mornings, and what he described as a noticia. Sense of less internal tension. The point is this: urination is about maintenance and health rhythm, not just urgency. Emptying your bladder fully before bed is the essential bladder reset. It gives your prostate a crucial break and your body a chance to enter a sleep cycle without internal pressure building up. Even if the urge feels mild, responding to it reinforces your body's healthy biofeedback and balance. Make this your final prostate health habit. Brush your teeth, wash your face, and void your bladder. It's not about the volume. It's about sending a clear, final signal to your system that you are completely done for the day. This small ritual can dramatically help reduce swelling, lower nighttime urinary frequency, and support a healthier, more peaceful rhythm in your lower body. Final thoughts. Reclaiming your nights and your health. So many men quietly, frustratingly accept their prostate and bladder problems. The relentless late-night trips, the lingering pressure, the feeling of never quite emptying, as merely an unavoidable part of getting older. But what if a significant portion of that chronic discomfort wasn't solely aging, but a direct consequence of easily correctable nighttime habits? And what if changing just 2 or 3 small things you do after $6 p.m. could give your prostate and your body the deep relief and restorative sleep it has been desperately needing? Today, we revealed the 5 nocturnal prostate traps: late-night hydration overload, stress on bladder capacity, high-sodium processed dinners, causing water retention and congestion, prolonged bladder distension, straining the bladder wall, postural prostate compression, stomach sleeping pressure, skipping the final void, failing the bladder reset. None of these habits seem acutely dangerous, but over time, they quietly compound pressure, slow down natural drainage, and force an already sensitive prostate to work harder than it was ever meant to. The incredible news is that your body possesses a powerful capacity for recovery and repair. It doesn't need a miracle supplement or an extreme overhaul. Often, it just needs you to stop doing the things that are actively harming it. Give your prostate the space and the rest it has been asking for. Your action plan for tonight. Which of these 5 habits do you now realize you have been making without knowing the damage? Which one will you commit to changing tonight? Leave a comment below and share your commitment. Even the smallest shift could mean better sleep, better flow, and a vastly better quality of life tomorrow. Thank you for joining me on this essential journey to prostate wellness and nocturia relief.